Chapter 519, Zetsu's Despair. Ha ha ha, the strongest Genjutsu. Let me experience it, Madara. When Zetsu heard Yuna yell those words, his jaw almost hit the ground. He was certain that as soon as Yuna noticed that Sasuke Susanoo was blocking the infinite Tsukuyomi, she would teleport next to Naruto, but to his delight, she did the opposite and held her position. Yes, her arrogance finally caused her to make a mistake. Moments later, Yuna's eyes changed and turned into a pair of Rinnegan, showing that she was trapped in the infinite Tsukuyomi. Yes. We have her. Zetsu was elated. How couldn't he be? The greatest obstacle in his plan was finally out of the equation, and Madara was almost ready to get betrayed as well. Everything was going well. However, ha ha ha. A shiver went through Zetsu's spine as he heard crazed female laughter. No, please tell me it's not true. What an interesting experience. Zetsu mechanically turned his head to see the source of the loud laughter. Please tell me it's not true. Infinite Tsukuyomi, ha. Good stuff, ha ha ha. Zetsu finished turning his head, and as soon as he saw Yuna boisterously laughing with her fist pushed into her sides, he collapsed to his knees. How? Why? Impossible. This is completely impossible. No one can get out of the infinite Tsukuyomi by themselves. It's F-skin impossible. Zetsu felt his consciousness waver, but moments later, he regained his bearing as he gritted his teeth. Not yet. The plan is almost finished. One more step. Just one more step, and Mother will be back. As soon as Mother is back, everything will be fine. While cracks appeared in Zetsu's sanity, Madara looked at Yuna indifferently. Frankly, he wasn't even surprised that she broke out of his jutsu. In fact, he expected her to do so. As expected of the person, I acknowledged. This is the least she should be able to do. However, there is another step left. Let's see how she deals with that one. Madara slapped his hands together as his power exploded outward. Moments later, he fired another jutsu. Divine Genesis, World of Trees. Trees started growing, but they not only grew on this battlefield but all over the planet. Gigantic roots burst out of the ground and entangled everyone under the influence of the infinite Tsukuyomi and suspended them in midair. However, these roots completely ignored Sasuke Susanoo as if it weren't even there. Clearly, the Susanoo was hiding their presence from the ever-present tree roots. However, Yuna was not shielded like that, but despite that, no roots tried to ensnare her. Or rather, it seems like the roots didn't even want to get close to her, not daring to enter the area where her ice had frozen the ground underneath her. As an existence that absorbed chakra, the roots didn't dare to come too close to Yuna's ice, which absorbed and covered everything. A few moments later, Madara's jutsu ended, and the tree stopped growing. Yuna circulated her cultivation and started floating, and moments later, she hovered in front of the still airborne Madara. Are you ready, Madara? This will be our last dance. An excited grin appeared on Madara's face when he heard Yuna's words. Although he didn't expect his jutsu to defeat Yuna outright, he at least expected it to cause her some trouble. However, he was proven wrong yet again. Frankly, he couldn't care less about that failure as a battle-thirsty smile appeared on his face. Yes, this is how it should be. This is how the fate of this world should be decided. Honestly, this was an outcome Madara never expected to happen. His plan was to get revived, get his Rinnegan back, and absorb the Jubi, making him invincible. And then, he would simply cast the infinite Tsukuyomi and end this instantly. However, that was boring. That was not how Madara liked it at all. Only by defeating an opponent with equal strength could he genuinely call this a worthy victory. In conclusion, he loved the current situation. Let's continue dancing, Yuna Uzumaki. This will be our final dance of death, Madara Uchiha. Meanwhile, Zetsu looked at the two mad people and shook his head. At first, he considered allowing these two crazies to have their fight or whatever, but after thinking about the current situation, he quickly realized that there were quite a few more powerhouses present. And, what was even worse, one of them was proficient in sealing. If he got sealed away, he would lose everything he had built up until now. Naturally, this was the reason why the Uzumaki clan needed to go. Seals were one of the things he feared. Time to backstab Madara and finally revive Mother. I've been waiting for this for a long time. He was just about to take action when he met eyes with a purple pair of eyes that seemed to hold infinite wisdom, causing a shudder of absolute terror to course through his body while he felt like the world was collapsing onto him. She knows. How could she possibly know about Mother? Why does she know that I want to backstab Madara? Just now, he met Yuna's eyes and Zetsu could instantly tell why she looked at him. It was a warning. It was a warning not to move against Madara. How does she know so much about all my secret plans? Meanwhile, a young woman with black hair that was currently trapped inside an illusion where multiple beautiful women were fawning over her had to sneeze. Surprisingly, she did not only sneeze in the illusion, but even her trapped body sneezed. Weird, is someone thinking about me? Oh well, who cares? It's time to enjoy the harem protagonist lifestyle. As expected, after defeating Kaguya and saving the world, women just keep coming, gahihi. Additionally, there was a certain red-headed woman who was currently bullying the previously mentioned black-haired one within her illusion. There was also an old man that was surrounded by massive mountains of books and a young-looking woman with enormous breasts surrounded by mountains of alcohol bottles. And finally, there were quite a few people who were simply living their everyday lives in their illusion, with the only difference being a certain woman with red and blue hair not being present. Chapter 520, the fight continues. Boom. An intense shockwave shook the air as Madara's fist was caught by Yuna's chakra-coated hand. Again and again, their hands collided, attacking and defending at a slowly increasing speed. Then, the duo started using their legs, mixing kicks and dodges into their previously pure hand-to-hand combat, increasing the pace. A few moments later, a loud clang echoed over the battlefield as a black staff collided with a giant sword, resulting in a small nick in the staff. The two weapons collided dozens of times within an instant. Since Madara felt like he was getting pushed back, a second staff appeared, allowing him to attack and defend simultaneously, resulting in a stalemate. Next, Yuna's chains and Madara's Truth Seeker orbs moved, repeatedly colliding with each other, and finally, Madara's Limbo Clones made an appearance, but they were quickly suppressed by ice shields and icicles that appeared around Yuna, blocking their advances. Despite the super high-speed combat, Yuna and Madara both wore broad grins on their faces as their eyes shone joyfully. It was rather evident that despite currently fighting to the death, they were immensely enjoying themselves. Meanwhile, Sasuke spectated the ongoing battle while clenching his hands so hard that blood started slowly dripping from his fists. How? A complex mix of anger and confusion coursed through Sasuke's body as he continued watching Yuna fight Madara at an ever-increasing pace, making it look like they simply had no limit. How can she still keep up? Obviously, that was what frustrated Sasuke the most. He went through power-up after power-up and even received the inheritance from the Sage of Six Paths himself and awakened a Rinnegan, and yet, he still couldn't overpower Yuna, someone who had only the Kyuubi sealed into her. And that wasn't even the worst part of it as Sasuke spectated the fight, barely able to follow what was going on. How can they control so many things at the same time? Yes, this was another factor bothering him. In Yuna's case, she was using her own body, 10 chains while simultaneously creating ice around her, and in Madara's case, it was his body, his 10 Truthseeker balls, and the Limbo Clans. Well, Sasuke wasn't sure whether those were independent or not, but it didn't really matter. In Madara's case, Sasuke could still accept that he was more skilled than him. After all, he was a legendary shinobi that fought through decades of war. However, Sasuke couldn't grasp how someone at his age could be so much more skilled in combat. Let's not forget that Sasuke even had the Sharingan to help him cheat, but it was still no use. Sire, don't think I have ever seen Nasan having that much fun. Sasuke heard Naruto's words and gave Yuna's facial expression a glance, immediately making him flinch as bad memories popped up in his mind. Damn, she really is a monster. There is no way a human face could contort into such a twisted grin. Sasuke took a deep breath, attempting to calm down his agitation. Although it didn't work out too well, it was still better than nothing. So, after thinking about his next step, he concluded that Naruto and he should start moving as well. He decided that stopping Madara and saving the world had a slightly higher priority than his revenge on Yuna. Well, that was mostly because he couldn't get revenge if the world was enslaved, but those were just semantics. Naruto, we should attack him as well. This is no time to play around. Naruto raised his eyebrows at Sasuke's suggestion before shaking his head in denial. Are you sure you want to interrupt Nasan when she is having that much fun? Sasuke visibly flinched as an ugly expression appeared on his face, but he regained his bearing a few seconds later. Shouldn't we put that aside? No matter how I look at it, defeating Madara is more important than her having fun. We didn't get this jutsu just for us to not move and let other people fight. Naruto simply shrugged his shoulders as he continued spectating the high-speed battle happening midair. There is no need for us to make a move yet, Sasuke. We should conserve our strength and wait for the final boss to pop up. Only then will we go all in. Final boss? Isn't that Madara? Naruto shook his head while giving Black Zetsu a glance. No, it's not Madara. Our final enemy is Kaguya Otsutsuki, the Mad Rabbit Goddess. Question marks popped up above Sasuke's head. Obviously, he knew who that was. After all, the whole story was told to him not even 5 minutes ago. What he couldn't grasp was why her name suddenly popped up. Wasn't she gone? Don't worry about it too much, Sasuke. Just trust me that she will make a comeback and that outcome is inevitable. You and I will have to fight her at some point, and this right now is the perfect moment. Although Sasuke still couldn't understand how Naruto knew about that, he simply shrugged his shoulder in the end. Naruto clearly didn't want to tell him more, and frankly, Sasuke didn't care enough about this to bother. Whether it's Madara or Kaguya, he just had to defeat them, and everything should be fine. Meanwhile, Zetsu looked at Naruto in disbelief. So far, he had always guessed that Yuna knew significantly more than everybody else, but now his guess was finally confirmed without a single doubt. He said Mother's name and even claimed that she would be revived soon. So they knew everything for a long time now. How is this possible? I'm the only one who could possibly know about this. Although Zetsu was disturbed by that revelation, there was something else he found rather important. He claims that Mother will revive soon. Don't they want to prevent that from happening? Since they seem to know my whole plan, shouldn't they go after me? Zetsu pondered the current situation a while longer before a glint passed through his eyes and he realized what was going on. They are underestimating Mother. Rather than keep me as an enemy hidden in the shadows, they want to call Mother and finish this once and for all. Fools, they will know true terror as soon as Mother returns. She is invincible. And so, the battle between Yuna and Madara continued while people were making all kinds of plans about their next step. Meanwhile, a young man wearing a green spandex suit was watching the battle between Yuna and Madara with crimson flames burning in his eyes. I will reach that kind of level someday. No, I will surpass it. Compared to my fire of youth, this is nothing. Youth. Chapter 521, let's end this. As Yuna and Madara's fight continued, its scope started increasing at a rapid pace. While the duo started out with just hand-to-hand combat, mountain-sized ice blocks were now flying through the air, which were countered by hundreds of building-sized trees. What started out as hand-to-hand combat turned into a scene of apocalyptic proportions. Amid the monstrous attacks, two people were zooming through the air, dodging everything that was flung at them with crazed expressions on their faces. This is the most fun I have ever had. More. Ha ha ha, it's rare to find someone who can keep it up this long. Despite looking like he was lost in the joy of battle, Madara never entirely lost his concentration. So, he noticed that something was off. Well, he noticed Yuna's sexual innuendo, but that wasn't what he felt was off. Something about the current situation didn't feel right to him. Madara flicked his wrist, causing another 100 trees to burst out of the ground to deflect another ice mountain that appeared out of nowhere. A frown appeared on Madara's face as he noticed that he had used significantly too much strength in that block, resulting in some wasted chakra. Frankly, it couldn't be helped that he didn't have perfect control over his body yet, since he just went through a massive power-up. As he fought using his newfound power, he slowly refined himself to use it optimally, improving his combat effectiveness. He finally realized what felt weird to him as he thought about these things. While I'm slowly getting used to my new power, my combat strength is steadily increasing, but how come it isn't the same for Yuna? She went through a tremendous power spike as well. She should be slowly getting used to that kind of power, making her stronger. Meanwhile, Yuna could more or less guess what Madara was thinking about, causing her to smirk. You want to know why I'm not steadily getting stronger due to mastering my newfound strength, huh? Although Madara was shocked that Yuna somehow managed to read his thoughts, he still nodded his head. Yes, this is weird. At the start, we were about equal in power, but now I feel like I'm slightly overpowering you. Something is wrong. Yuna chuckled in amusement while shrugging her shoulders. In that case, let me lift that mystery for you. The reason why I'm not improving by mastering this new level of strength is because I already mastered it. What? Nonsense, there is no way you could do something like that instantly. Yuna sighed deeply as she held her head, making her look like she was in deep pain due to her own inadequacy. Sigh instantly. Obviously, I couldn't do something like that instantly. Sigh, took me almost 5 seconds to do it. Truly, my talent can at best be described as average. Madara's eyebrows twitched in irritation when he heard Yuna's words and instantly dismissed all of it as nonsense. Whatever, she is just trying to irritate me, so I should ignore her. While Yuna's words sounded like a lie, there was actually quite a bit of the truth mixed in as well. She truly got used to her power after around 5 seconds, but the only reason why she could do it was that she had mastered her current power level before, in her previous life. She might be in a different body now, but since she was still far from her past life's peak, she had no problem controlling her strength. Well, putting aside how great I am. Right. It's time to end this. Naturally, Madara was taken aback by Yuna's words. And this? We are clearly at a stalemate. Or rather than calling it a statement, I'm slowly but surely getting the upper hand. Yuna chuckled in amusement as she could almost see the question marks hovering above Madara's head. Hee, aren't you overseeing something rather important, Madara? Madara became even more confused and started looking around him. He could subtly feel that there was really something wrong. Something that felt unnatural. After a few short seconds, Madara squinted his eyes as he had detected something rather weird. Weird, am I just imagining it, or are there 8 ice mountains around me that have around the same distance from each other and myself? Yuna carefully inspected Madara's facial expression, and as soon as she noticed that Madara found out what she was talking about, a smirk appeared on her face. What is my name, Madara? Madara became even more confused. He really wondered where Yuna was going with this. Her name. Isn't it Yuna Yuzum? As soon as that last name appeared in his mind, he paled. Seals. Since she has so many different powers and never used any seals, I didn't even make the connection to the Uzumaki clan specialty. Since she is so monstrous in everything else, surely it can't be like this with seals as well, right? Madara would rather not find out whether that was true or not, so he quickly flew upward to get out of whatever Yuna was planning with these 8 mountains. Unfortunately, it was too late, and Yuna activated her seal arrangement just before Madara could get out of it. Divine Uzumaki sealing style, 8 heavenly frozen mountains, divine suppression domain. A white beam of light shot out of the peaks of the 8 artificially created mountains, which swiftly created a vast dome around Yuna and Madara. As soon as the sphere was closed, Madara staggered a little as he felt his power weaken a little. However, a sneer appeared on Madara's face as he felt the seal suppression. "Oh? So you weaken me a little? So what? Even when I'm slightly weakened, I can still defeat you. Did you honestly bet everything on something that has such little effect?" Yuna shook her head as she looked at Madara in pity. "This was a lot of fun, Madara. However, preventing the final battle any longer might cause some trouble. So, let me end this with words of wisdom every shinobi should keep close to his heart." Naturally, Madara wondered what final battle Yuna was talking about, but as she said those words, she lifted her arm as a ferocious grin appeared on her face. Her fingers moved into a snapping position before she resumed talking. "A shinobi must see underneath the underneath." Snap. Splat. A cake hit Madara in the face. Chapter 522, Kaguya Utsutsuki. Madara couldn't believe what just had happened. In his life, he went through a lot of battles. However, not once did someone ever throw a cake in his face mid-fight. Especially not after diverting his attention with a ridiculously elaborate sealing arrangement that barely showed any effect. He tried to move his arm to swipe the cake out of his face, but to his surprise, his arm wouldn't budge. What did you do? On top of not being able to move his arms, even speaking was a chore, greatly irritating him. Yuna smirked as her posture relaxed. Uzumaki divine pranking style, 8 mountain distraction form, 1 cake to seal them all. It took Madara a second to piece together the string of words he had just heard, and his anger flared up as soon as he did. She sealed my movement with a seal she hid inside the cake. She used AF skin cake to seal my movement. Madara seemed to regain some control over his body as he tried to move it with all his might. "You will regret humiliating me like this." Yuna groaned as her body swayed a little, causing Madara's eyes to light up. "She hasn't fully formed the seal yet and is still struggling with suppressing me. I can get out of this if I struggle with enough force. I will not be sealed like this." Madara roared in anger while increasing the effort he put into breaking free, causing Yuna to groan as a trickle of blood flowed out of the corner of her mouth. "You won't escape." Madara gritted his teeth as whatever stopped him from moving got stronger after Yuna's yell, causing him to put even more effort into breaking free. What he didn't notice was that someone was slowly approaching Madara while Yuna and he were struggling against each other. Chance tilde. Splatter. Before anyone could realize what was going on, an entirely black hand pierced into Madara's back and came out of the front. Black Zetsu has just stabbed Madara in the back. Naturally, Madara was beyond shocked when he realized what had just happened. Zetsu. Why? Hee, it couldn't be helped. After all, there is no longer any use in keeping you now that the infinite Tsukiyomi was started. What are you talking about? The infinite Tsukiyomi's purpose was never to trap everyone in a genjutsu. It was always meant to capture everyone on the planet and gather all the chakra in the world in one place. And nonsense. The infinite Tsukiyomi is an Uchiha Jutsu. It was recorded like that on the... Before Madara could finish speaking, a face-splitting grin appeared on Zetsu's face as he interrupted what Madara wanted to say. Stone monument under the Uchiha compound, right? I have been around for eons, so making a few little tweaks here and there was no trouble at all. Eons? What are you talking about? You are my will. Black Zetsu's face distorted even further as he cackled in glee. No, I'm Kaguya's will. As he said that, a black substance covered more and more of Madara's body, and no matter how much he struggled, he couldn't resist Zetsu in the slightest. No. Not like this. I will not die as someone else's pawn. However, no matter what he did, nothing worked. He looked around him, trying to find something that could help him, and couldn't help but look at Yuna, who was spectating the current scene with a slight smirk on her face. That little smirk sent shivers down Madara's spine. Did she know this would happen? Yuna noticed Madara's gaze, causing her smirk to widen as her mouth formed a few words, allowing Madara to lip-read them. Underneath the underneath. Somehow, that made Madara relax a little. He realized that the person tricking him was getting tricked as well, satisfying him a little. Additionally, rather than getting duped by a sly rat like Zetsu, he would rather get used by a powerful shinobi like Yuna. Despite her weirdness and all the weird stuff she pulled during the fight, Madara respected her strength. Moments later, massive amounts of chakra started flowing into Madara's body, causing it to bloat. He sighed deeply as pain started wreaking his body due to his chakra network being incapable of keeping up with the inflow of chakra. Sai, where did I go wrong, Hashirama? Those were Madara's last words as his body was fully engulfed by the black substance, and moments later, Madara's bloated body started shrinking again, compressing all the collected chakra into a smaller form. The form kept continuously shrinking until it was back to human proportions, and moments later, the shrinking stopped. The rabbit goddess was reborn. She was a pale-skinned woman with delicate facial features and extremely long, smooth white hair. She had a pair of clear white eyes and a third eye on her forehead. This one had the Rinnegan ripple patterns and an additional 9 tomo aligned with the ripples, the Rinnish Ringden. She wore a white hinkimono adorned with dozens of tomo and real gold and purple embellishments on its edges. Her presence was beyond suffocating as she possessed a chakra pull far surpassing even Yuna and Naruto combined while radiating dignity and power. She was Kaguya Otsutsuki. Yuna's eyes shone as soon as Kaguya appeared before her. She has been waiting for this event for quite a while now. Frankly, she has barely any information about Kaguya, but she felt like things might be a little different than what she had been told. Now that she could see Kaguya in person, her doubts were confirmed. How interesting. Mad a rabbit goddess, huh? It seems like there is a little more to her than Hisoka knew. Well, considering how phony her source of knowledge is, we shouldn't be surprised. That is true as well. Now that she was finally seeing Kaguya for the first time, Yuna observed how she looked and couldn't help but frown. Is it just me, or does she look a little familiar? Chapter 523, it begins. Is it just me, or does she look a little familiar? Isn't that because you have met other Otsutsuki before? Possible, but I don't think that is the case. Why would you feel like she is similar to someone you know while the other Otsutsuki we met didn't? Isn't that a little weird? Oh? That's because they were Ma. Koth looked completely different. Right, selective memory. I forgot. Meanwhile, Naruto couldn't help but feel tense due to Kaguya's strong presence. This will be no joke. Are you ready, Kurama? Oh. Let's win the final battle and end this nonsense, Naruto. Well, it seems like it's our turn now, Sasuke. Sasuke frowned when he heard Naruto's words and focused his gaze on Kaguya. How did you know about her, Naruto? Naruto rolled his eyes as he slowly approached Kaguya. I really wonder how someone from an ancient clan that specialized in sealing could possibly know about someone powerful being sealed away. Sasuke's frown deepened, clearly not satisfied with Naruto's answer. However, after feeling the power rolling off Kaguya, he decided to shelve that topic for now and concentrate on the coming fight. Meanwhile, Kaguya looked around, taking in her surroundings. First, her eyes landed on Yuna. She felt that something was unusual about her, so she activated her Byakugan to take a closer look. However, after realizing that the source of that feeling was very likely the additional chakra source inside her, she lost interest. She redirected her gaze towards the two men walking toward her and inspected them as well. As soon as she noticed the feeling she got from Naruto's right hand and Sasuke's left, a deep frown appeared on her face. So even now, after who knows how many years had passed, my children's children are still my enemies. What are you saying, mother? You should focus on the red-haired woman, she is the most dangerous person present. Kaguya pondered Zetsu's words as her gaze landed on Yuna again. To her surprise, Yuna looked at her with interest instead of fear or shock. There certainly is something different about her, but that isn't important right now. These two young men have inherited Hagoromo's power. They have the ability to reseal me. Naturally, Zetsu was shocked by that revelation. However, his shock came due to a slightly different reason. No way, the legendary sage of 6 paths was actually an idiot. Why the F would he give that power to Naruto and not to Yuna? Hell, give it to Yuna and Naruto and be done with this. I would probably advise Mother to flee immediately if she had to face that kind of arrangement. Unbeknown to Zetsu's thoughts, Kaguya focused on Naruto and Sasuke and started speaking with an otherworldly-sounding voice. It seems that even after all these years, I'm still hated by my son. Did Hagoromo give you these powers? Naruto stepped forward, not the least bit intimidated by Kaguya's aura. After getting used to Yuna's presence after she snapped, there were very few things that could still intimidate him. Yeah, he gave it to us, but I'm honestly not too fond of using a power that doesn't belong to me. Do we really have to fight? Kaguya was actually surprised by Naruto's words. Since the duo in front of her had the power to seal her, she was confident they would approach her with nothing but hostility. However, Kaguya's thoughts quickly went in a different direction. I see, he wants me to let my guard down. This won't happen. I will finish this once and for all. Be careful, mother. Don't believe a word they say. These people call themselves shinobi, and they are trained to trick people with their words and actions. I see, so it is as I expected. I see. In that case, let's stop fighting. For a split second, a happy smile appeared on Naruto's face before it was quickly changed into a deep frown when he felt the massive amounts of chakra Kaguya concentrated into her third eye. Here. As soon as that word left her mouth, the surroundings changed to what appeared to be the inside of a volcano with a sea of lava bubbling underneath everyone. Yuna could feel Kaguya summoning what amounts to pretty much a different dimension, overlapping the original one, but didn't do anything to prevent it. Doing so would cost massive amounts of chakra and wasn't worth the effort. So, everyone found themselves appearing above a lake of lava, and while Kaguya and Naruto could fly due to the power of the 6 paths and Yuna, Hinata, and Anko could fly due to their cultivation, Lee, Guy, and Sasuke immediately started free-falling. Additionally, the almost dead Obita, who was previously controlled by Zetsu, also fell towards the lava. Yuna shook her head at Kaguya's ridiculous technique that spent significantly too much chakra for what little effect it had and extended 2 chakra arms to catch Lee and Guy. After thinking about it for a split second, a third arm appeared, catching Obita, whose body was abandoned by Zetsu when Kaguya revived. He was rather close to death and probably won't have any role in this, but Yuna decided that he would be a nice gift to Naruto, who wanted to kill him. At first, she considered getting Sasuke as well, but he managed to go through a few hand signs and summon a huge eagle, allowing himself to fly on its back. Yuna, should we open the 8th gate? Guy asked that question as soon as Yuna had pulled him next to her, causing her to shake her head. Don't worry, Guy, Lee, it might not look like it, but everything is under control. Although the duo had some doubts about that, they still nodded their head in understanding. Simultaneously, Naruto and Sasuke arrived in front of Kaguya with serious facial expressions. I'll say it so that you don't do anything stupid, we two are the most important. If either of us dies, this is over. So, if saving one of the people behind us would put us into a dangerous situation, we should just ignore them. As long as we are alive, everything will work out somehow. Naruto chuckled in amusement when he heard Sasuke's words. Saving the people behind us. Isn't Nasen there? Why would they need saving? Sasuke gritted his teeth but didn't comment any further. For now, there was nothing more important than defeating Kaguya. Chapter 524, Sealing Kaguya. Moments later, the fight started, and while Naruto and Sasuke were actively engaging Kaguya, Yuna sat back and relaxed. There was no doubt about Kaguya's power, but all of that strength came from her raw power. Her attacks had no finesse, no strategy, no planning, nothing. In conclusion, Yuna had no desire to fight her. Disgusting. While spectating, she couldn't help but utter these thoughts in her mind as she was watching Naruto fight. Although I more or less understood what you were talking about when you talked about fate, I wasn't expecting it to be this bad. Yuna felt disgusted by how Naruto fought. It was ridiculously sloppy, very unlike his original fighting style. How else could the cliché of a 17-year-old hero defeating a 1,000-year-old demon king happen? It simply doesn't make any sense. In fact, that wasn't even the worst part. The worst part was that Naruto and Sasuke fought around the same level of strength. Imagine spending all your life honing your skills and body just for someone else to receive a magic eye and become your equal. Sire Lofyu, fate. Meanwhile, Naruto wasn't having a good time at all. His body felt sluggish. His chakra didn't flow as smoothly as it usually does, while his mind seemed to have slowed down as well. What the hell is this? It feels like I'm moving through water instead of air. On the other hand, Sasuke was feeling great. So this is the inheritance of the Sage of Six Paths. Incredible. What incredible power. With this, I can do it. My time has finally come. As soon as this fight is won, I will defeat her. Just like that, the fight continued. While Kaguya spanned overbearing attacks and freely teleported around, Naruto and Sasuke struggled to keep up with her. However, while Kaguya had to defeat the duo, Naruto and Sasuke could win in just one move. They just had to hit her simultaneously with the palm holding the seal they received from Hagoromo. At one point, Kaguya tried to separate Naruto and Sasuke, but Naruto had preemptively put a modified Flying Thunder God seal on Sasuke, allowing Naruto to follow him. Naruto might feel sluggish, but that didn't mean he was stupid. Obviously, Sasuke started grumbling that Naruto had put a seal on him, but Naruto ignored him. Naturally, Yuna teleported the remaining people towards Sasuke as well. She didn't want to miss the show, after all. As soon as Yuna reached the new dimension, she chuckled in amusement due to the whole dimension being made out of ice. Well, thanks for the meal, I guess. Meanwhile, Kaguya stumbled a little when Yuna appeared. This was her dimension, so she had total control over it, but suddenly, that control was gone. It was as if this wasn't her dimension from the start. I told you she was dangerous, mother. Quickly, we need to get to a different dimension. Kaguya nodded her head at Zetsu's words and swiftly changed dimensions, taking everyone with her. Well, everyone but Yuna, who stayed behind and was currently busy creating a complex sealing arrangement. Well, even though I said thanks for the meal, I'm pretty much stuffed to the brim, so I guess I'll store this for later. Might as well share some of the natural energy with Haku Tilda. Stuffed to the brim, huh? Is it normal to cultivate while fighting someone who can go toe-to-toe with you? Well, I do it all the time. Got it, so it isn't. Hee, I think I'm about to have another breakthrough, Tilda. Damn monster. Ha, what can I say? I'm just that awesome. Oh well, while I'm here, I might as well make this my personal pocket dimension. A few minutes later, Yuna was done with modifying this dimension and teleported near Naruto's current position. As soon as she arrived, she saw a rather surprising scene. Kaguya had a slight blush on her face while she was surrounded by around a dozen beautiful naked men. Well, have we switched genre again? Moments later, one of the beautiful men punched her in the face, sending her flying to the ground. Yep, we have definitely switched genres. Aren't you worried that she seemed to be interested in men? Pa. She is just like spaghetti, straight as long as things don't get wet and hot. Didn't she even have children with a man? Insignificant details. Now that I think about it, why are we talking like she will inevitably join your harem? Because it's the natural thing to do. Suddenly, all the beautiful men transformed into multiple Narutos and attacked Kaguya from the air. Sometimes I really wonder about Naruto's sexuality. Is he really just into women? If not, that would explain his weird obsession with Sasuke in Hisoka's timeline. True. Guess I need to investigate a little. A glint passed through Yuna's eyes, causing a shiver to go down Naruto's spine without even understanding why. Seconds later, Naruto and Sasuke managed to take advantage of Naruto's unusual surprise attack and trapped Kaguya in between them, sealing her fate. True planetary devastation. Kaguya couldn't believe that she was bested yet again. Why? I'm the origin of all chakra. How can I be defeated with something that is part of me? She just wanted to give up struggling when a calm voice echoed over the battlefield. Fate determines the ending of a story. However, what if I were to decide to continue writing after it ended? Yuna appeared in front of Kaguya, the symbol of a snowflake glowing on her palm. Before anyone could react, Yuna's palm landed on Kaguya's forehead. Go FCK yourself, Fate. Naruto and Sasuke's jutsu activated and pulled Kaguya into the sky while attracting massive amounts of earth, forming a gigantic moon. Sasuke was just about to ask what Yuna had just done when space started cracking. After a bit of twisting and turning, a young woman with pale white skin, 3 eyes, and an expression of utter confusion appeared in front of the trio. Kaguya was back. Chapter 525, One Last Time. Hagoromo, who was currently floating around in his special realm, sighed in relief when Naruto and Sasuke managed to pull off the sealing jutsu on Kaguya. The moment Yuna suddenly appeared and did something, cold sweat started flowing down his back like a river. Fortunately, Kaguya was sealed anyway, making Hagoromo think that Yuna only played a little prank to make everyone nervous. However, space suddenly seemed to tremble, and moments later, Kaguya reappeared, causing Hagoromo to crash land. FCK. Is she crazy? FCK, she readily admits that. This was probably the first time Hagoromo had sworn since eons. As expected of Yuna, even sages start swearing due to her. Shit, what now? That seal is a one-time use. He was pacing back and forth in his realm, trying to come up with a viable solution to solve this mess. Moments later, he froze up while an annoyed expression appeared on his face. Am I an idiot? The solution is obvious. I'll just leave it all to Yuna. I'm sure she has a plan. She always does. And just like that, the Sage of Six Paths stopped thinking and decided to enjoy the show instead. Meanwhile, in the real world, Kaguya was even more confused than Hagoromo. The seal was completed and her power was gone. She had lost yet again. However, she was suddenly back here, and her sealed power was returning to her at a rapid pace. What happened? I don't know, but we should retreat for now. Zetsu's words confused Kagura. Retreat? Why retreat? The seal is gone and can no longer be used. Haven't we won? Zetsu did not answer Kaguya's question, causing her to squint. You are afraid of this woman? Zetsu shook for a moment before gritting his teeth and answering. Yes, she is a monster and I don't want to be anywhere near her. Frankly, that fascinated Kaguya a little. She couldn't even imagine what had happened to Zetsu for him to be this afraid of Yuna. Nevertheless, she decided to trust in Zetsu's advice. Unlike him, she had been sealed away for a long time and knew very little about the world. Unfortunately, two hands softly cupped her face just when she was about to teleport away. Initially, she wanted to slap the hands away, but before she could do so, she noticed a pair of deep purple eyes looking at her with compassion. Kaguya couldn't help but be drawn in by the depth of these eyes. No one had ever looked at her with that kind of eyes, and before she could do anything else, an ethereal voice seemingly older than time itself rang in everybody's ears. "You poor, poor child. You went through all that suffering to do what you think was best, and yet you get betrayed again and again for all your efforts." Kaguya wanted to protest, but no word could leave her mouth. "First, you must backstab the partner you trusted because he wanted to betray you." Kaguya's eyes opened wide when she heard that. No one should have known about that. How does the voice know? Who does it belong to? Kaguya, who was still transfixed on the purple pair of eyes in front of her, didn't even notice that these eyes were attached to a person. Then, you find yourself a husband, but as soon as you are alone, a few rogues want to defile your body, so you defend yourself and kill them. So, what does your husband do? He sides with the rogues and wants to hunt you down. What a pathetic man. Kaguya's body shivered as she felt hatred well up inside her when she heard the story of her husband. Indeed, what a pathetic man. You flee, not wanting to kill anyone around you. Additionally, you are pregnant, which weakens you greatly. Your personal attendant wants to tell your husband that you are pregnant. The result, she gets shot down by a hail of arrows. Kaguya shuddered yet again as the previous hatred got mixed with sorrow. She missed her little attendant, Aino. Finally, you are driven into a corner, so you decide to make the only choice you can to save your unborn children, eating the chakra fruit, endlessly increasing your power while simultaneously infecting you with uncontrolled insanity and hatred. Kaguya gritted her teeth when she heard that part of her story. Would she eat the fruit again if she were in the same situation? No, she would regret giving birth to Hagoromo and Hamura again. She would only do the same if it were guaranteed that these two wouldn't be born. Slowly, you are losing yourself in the fruit's insanity, turning you more and more aggressive, and how do your beloved children react to that? They deem you a threat and seal you away. Betrayed yet again by the people you loved. Kaguya had pretty much sealed all these memories in the depth of her mind, but now that everything was laid bare in front of her, she could no longer control herself as tears slowly started trickling out of her eyes. Stewing with these kinds of emotions for over 1,000 years inside a seal, you are a very pitiful child, Kaguya. Kaguya wanted to lash out, claiming that she didn't want any pity, but she didn't. She felt that these words were correct. Why did she have to suffer so much? It simply wasn't fair. Obviously, the tree growing the chakra fruit wasn't a good thing either, as it sucked the planet dry, but what was she supposed to do against that? She was just a single person, surrounded by either people who couldn't fight or people who could potentially report her to the family. So, in her madness, she made the most illogical choice and created white Zetsu out of the chakra-less civilians trying to kill her. Fret not, child. Let me help you. Suddenly, Kaguya could feel someone else's forehead touching hers. Don't resist. Let me pull you in. Then, Kaguya felt something pulling at her mind. Naturally, she knew what was happening. Someone wanted to talk to her in her mindscape. Why are you not resisting? She is tricking you, mother. She is always tricking people. Don't listen to a word she says. However, Kaguya closed her eyes and allowed herself to be pulled in. When Naruto asked her not to fight, she didn't trust him in the slightest, so she dismissed it as another attempted betrayal. But she decided to trust the voice. One last time. One last time, I will allow myself to show weakness. Chapter 526, The True Puppet Master. Moments later, Kaguya appeared in her mindscape. She looked around, immediately causing her to frown. She hated this place. Twisted buildings were spread chaotically around her, while a thick layer of black sludge covered the ground. Black clouds hovered everywhere, occasionally showing 2 rows of white teeth distorted into a manic grin. She hated it because it showed how twisted her mind had become after all she went through. She ignored her own mindscape and looked at the one connecting to hers instead. It was a lush jungle covered in a fine layer of powder snow with a fierce-looking mountain entirely made of ice in the background. Additionally, there was a large beach where the sea produced colossal waves at a weirdly steady rhythm. Kaguya really wondered why that was there. Moments later, the sound of footsteps entered her ears, and when she looked at the source of the steps, she found a young woman walking toward her. One half of her hair was blue, while the other was red. Additionally, one of her eyes had a deep purple iris, while the other one was completely white. A combination of Yuna's past and current selves. Kaguya couldn't help but become slightly dazed when she saw the appearance of the woman in front of her. She didn't notice anything strange in the outside world, but now that she looked slightly different, Kaguya felt that she resembled someone. Unfortunately, she wasn't certain who she resembled. As the woman, Yuna, walked towards Kaguya with leisure steps, a black mass rose between Yuna and Kaguya, forming an entirely black human with yellow eyes. "Don't come any closer to Mother, monster." Yuna chuckled in amusement when she heard Zetsu's desperate voice. There was still a lot of fun to be had with him. "Oh my, what are you saying, Zetsu? You have been obediently following my plan all this time, and now you suddenly try to block my path. How naughty, Tilda." A shiver went through Zetsu's spine when he saw Yuna's predatory expression, but he didn't back down in the slightest. "Your plan? What kind of nonsense are you talking about?" Yuna chuckled in amusement as she shrugged her shoulders. "What? You thought you got this far by yourself? How amusing, Tilda." Naturally, Zetsu was surprised by Yuna's words. Didn't he do everything himself? He obviously did. He lied and tricked his way through the eons to reach this point where Kaguya was revived, so how could any of that have been Yuna's plan? Bullshit. You are only trying to trick me and confuse me even further. Don't think I don't know that you enjoy doing stuff like that. Hee, I do. However, the most enjoyable part is actually doing the things I claim I did. So, let me tell you something interesting to convince you. 4 minutes and 20 seconds. Question marks popped up above Zetsu's head when Yuna suddenly told him a random period of time. However, she continued talking before he could ask what she was talking about. "That is how long you were hidden inside that large tree directly behind Pain while I was talking with him." Zetsu froze up when he heard Yuna's words. Frankly, it didn't matter that she knew how long he was there, the problem was that she knew about his position in general. Impossible. She could sense me all this time. No, that can't be. She must have guessed my position because the tree was an excellent hiding position. Hee, I see doubt in your face. In that case, let me give you another one. 1 minute and 9 seconds of that is how long you stayed hidden underneath Pain while I was flirting with Conan. Yet again, Zetsu's body shook as Yuna revealed another one of his hiding spots. She can really tell where I am. Doesn't that mean she noticed me spying on her? Does that mean she noticed me spying on her while she was doing that outdoors? Yet again, Yuna chuckled as she noticed Black Zetsu's mind rapidly collapsing. Well, let me ask you a question next. When Naruto and Obito fought a while ago, why didn't Naruto put any teleportation markers on him? There certainly were quite a few opportunities to do so. What? Or rather, Minato already left a mark on Obito, so why wouldn't Naruto and I just hijack that one? Bullshit. And finally, why would I restrain Madara for you if I didn't plan this all along? Zetsu's body swayed due to the onslaught of revelations, but after hearing Yuna's last sentence, he managed to snap back. Nonsense. Help me by restraining him. You were clearly struggling to seal him away. Oh, so you like my performance? Please leave behind a positive customer review if you have the time. Before Zetsu could retort, a trickle of blood flowed out of the corner of Yuna's mouth as an expression of struggle appeared on her face. Oh no, Madara is almost breaking out of my seals tilde. Zetsu's eyebrow twitched in irritation as Yuna's voice lacked any emotions and sounded monotone, while her body signaled that she was struggling with her life on the line. What a ridiculous performance. She truly is a monster. Yuna saw that Zetsu's mind was relatively close to collapsing, so she decided to deal the finishing blow. Well then, it's time for the final reveal. If that wasn't truly my plan all along, then what is that symbol on the back of your right hand, Zetsu? Confused by Yuna's words, Zetsu looked at his right hand. He did so for about 5 seconds before rubbing his eyes and doing it again. This process repeated itself for about 5 times before. Ayayaha! A high-pitched scream left Zetsu's mouth. There was a flying thunder god seal on the back of his hand. WWN. How? Hee, it seems like my cake did have its desired effect on not only Madara but Zetsu as well. Breaking the mind of the manifestation of someone's will. Will mind breaker. No, that sounds silly. Maybe just will breaker. No, that doesn't convey the situation appropriately. Man, coming up with titles to give away is no easy business. Yuna chapped at Kurama's words as she slowly approached Zetsu. Don't you get it, Zetsu? You have always been my pawn. You are acting like someone controlling everything while being subtly controlled yourself. That is the kind of role you had. As for when I put it on you. Yuna stood in front of Zetsu, slightly leaning forward so she could whisper into his ear. It has always been that tilde. Zetsu's body swayed after hearing Yuna's words. Moments later, a trickle of blood came out of the corner of his mouth and he fainted. Well, that was fun tilde. Meanwhile, Kaguya watched the whole interaction between Yuna and Zetsu in confusion. Since she didn't know what happened between those two, she could barely understand the situation, but what she understood was that Yuna was indeed not someone you should underestimate. How interesting. This is the first time I have met someone like that. Still, I really would like to know who she resembles. Chapter 527, Slightly Edited History. As Yuna slowly approached Kaguya, she noticed that Kaguya also seemed to have a vague memory of her. Interesting. She didn't have any reaction to my physical form, so it must have something to do with my previous life. How interesting. As far as I can tell, there should be no connection between this world and my previous one, otherwise I would have surely heard about the weird energy called chakra before. Well, I say that there is no connection, but at least my soul managed to get here somehow. Well, she does resemble one of your past wives. True, but I initially discarded that idea since I didn't think it was physically possible to reach here. Now, however, I'm not so sure anymore. Suddenly, Yuna took the first step into Kaguya's part of the mindscape, and all hell broke loose. Kaguya wanted to stop her mindscape's aggression against Yuna, whom it considered an invader, but there was nothing she could do about it. Since eating the chakra fruit all these years ago, there were a lot of instances where she lost control of herself. The mud on the ground stirred and turned into spikes, shot towards Yuna, while a black gaseous substance wrapped itself around Yuna's head. The spikes reached Yuna, and the moment they touched her skin, they evaporated, while the same happened with the gas. In a battle between two mindscapes, the strength of will and mental capacities are the most important. I trump you in both. A powerful aura radiated out of Yuna, and everything it touched settled down immediately. Kaguya shuddered as she felt Yuna's powerful aura suppressing her mind, but at the same time, she felt relief since she felt the chakra fruit's madness getting suppressed as well. Despite the pressure, Kaguya had not felt this comfortable any ounce. Who are you? As soon as Yuna stood in front of her, that was the first thing that came out of Kaguya's mouth. Despite making Zetsu faint and suppressing her mind, Kaguya felt no hostility from Yuna, so, rather than being wary, she was curious. Yuna hummed, indicating that she had heard the question while stroking her non-existent beard and pondering how to answer her. After thinking about it for a short moment, she simply shrugged her shoulders as her body started transforming. Her red hair turned icy blue, while her one purple eye turned white as well. Additionally, her facial features grew sharper, giving her a regal feeling. What about this form? Does it look familiar to you? Kaguya's eyes bulged as soon as she saw Yuna's transformation. She automatically took a few steps back as she looked at Yuna in disbelief. Titi, the great ancestor's soulmate. Hearing Kaguya's exclamation, Yuna tilted her head in confusion. Where in the world did that title come from? Kaguya quickly composed herself and regained her bearing. Excuse me, you currently look precisely like someone who is pretty much worshipped by our clan. The legends say that the great ancestor was the one to lead the clan to prosperity a very long time ago, and by his side stood a single woman who supported him in everything he did. This woman was the great ancestor's soulmate and the only woman he ever loved. Although Yuna was pretty certain that this story was about her, it was rather evident that someone decided to do some imaginative editing over the years. The matter of gender aside, this so-called great ancestor, that supposedly only loved one person, was wholly addicted to sex. As long as someone was alive and was in the harem, she would pounce, often earning her a beating, which turned her on anyway. Sorry to burst your bubble, but your great ancestor was female. And as for that supposedly devoted love, she was part of my harem of women, and I'm pretty sure she got a taste of most of them. Kaguya froze up when she heard Yuna's words. She was about to critique Yuna's words when she realized something else. Wait a moment. Are you claiming that you are really the great ancestor's soulmate? Yuna shrugged her shoulders and started changing again. Inside her mindscape, it was incredibly easy for her to change her appearance, and moments later, a tall woman with white skin and two horns appeared in front of Kaguya, causing her jaw to drop. The only difference between the woman in front of her and the great ancestor she worshipped was that the woman had more feminine features, making Yuna's story a little believable. Meanwhile, Black Zetsu managed to regain consciousness and was listening into Yuna and Kaguya's conversation. When Kaguya called her great ancestor's soulmate, Zetsu wasn't shocked in the slightest and instantly believed it to be true. In fact, he was relieved. After all, the one messing up all of his plans wasn't some random human, it was someone that even Kaguya herself respected deeply. He could live with that. Anyway, Kaguya was about to continue interrogating Yuna when Yuna lifted her hand, making her stop speaking. Anyway, none of that is important for now. There are more important things to talk about than your great ancestor or whatever getting FCKED into a sloppy mess on a daily basis. Kaguya was about to argue that she found that to be an essential thing to talk about, but was yet again interrupted by Yuna. Let's get to the essential bits. How did you come to this realm? As far as I can tell, there should be no connection between the realms that allowed someone to travel it physically. Frankly, me being here is already beyond weird, but it seems like your clan somehow made it here with their physical bodies intact. Kaguya was about to answer when a dangerous aura suddenly wrapped around her, while Yuna appeared directly in front of her with a dangerous glint in her eyes. Additionally, I really would like to know what all that planet-destroying business is about, okay tilde. Hearing Yuna's words, Kaguya shuddered a little while lowering her head like a scolded child. Simultaneously, she tried to ignore the uncomfortable tingle in her butt that transmitted the feeling of distress. Chapter 528, The Utsutsuki's Clan's Past. Meanwhile, in the outside world, Sasuke was looking dumbfounded at Kaguya and Yuna, who were now unmoving while their foreheads were touching. The FCK. Naturally, he was confused by Kaguya's sudden reappearance. He noticed Yuna doing something just when Kaguya was about to be sealed away, but he would have never guessed she would do something this crazy. I get that she is insane, but what the FCK? Isn't this a little too much? While Sasuke was heavily confused by the situation in front of him, he regained his bearing rather quickly as a glint passed through his eyes. Both of them stopped moving. Initially, the goal was to seal Kaguya, but now I can actually kill her. This is a great chance. Sasuke moved and appeared next to Kaguya, his lightning chakra-coated sword already swinging down. However, Klein. Sasuke's sword collided with a wind chakra-coated kunai, blocking his attack. What are you doing, idiot? This is the perfect chance for us to kill her. Naruto, who had just blocked Sasuke's attack, shook his head. Although that might be the case, Nasan is currently doing something, and I will not allow you to interrupt her. Are you crazy? That's Kaguya. This is the perfect chance to kill her. Naruto was indifferent to Sasuke's words as he crossed his arms in front of his chest and stood between Sasuke and Kaguya. I don't care. Since Nasan wants it to be like this, I will do what she wants. Sasuke couldn't help but look at Naruto in utter bewilderment. He couldn't grasp how that goofy idiot he knew suddenly could take that kind of stance. Do you even know what she is currently doing? I have not the slightest clue. Yet again, Sasuke was dumbfounded by Naruto's irrational trust in Yuna. Obviously, he trusted Itachi to a high degree as well, but that situation was different. Yuna was someone who was prone to make ridiculous decisions, while Itachi, well, okay, he kind of genocided a whole clan, but that was a different matter. Yup, definitely a different matter. Are you insane? Who knows what she is currently doing? Hell, we don't even know whether she is succeeding or not. If she were to fail in whatever she is currently attempting, everyone is going to die. Do you seriously unconditionally trust Yuna with your life, Naruto? Yes. Naruto answered that question without a second of hesitation. No one could know whether that single word was supposed to answer Sasuke's first question or the last one. Meanwhile, Kaguya felt that her butt was in danger, so she quickly started telling Yuna what had happened to the clan. Well, she told her what she knew about it, since they reached this realm ages before Kaguya was born. Basically, a small branch of her original clan got involved in an accident and consequently was sucked into a spatial fracture. Instead of the usual outcome, death, they appeared in a foreign place. Most species they encountered from there on were very weak, so the people of the now newly renamed Otsutsuki grew complacent over time. Most no longer felt it necessary to cultivate as they were way above anyone else even without cultivating, resulting in the art slowly getting lost in the stream of time. Obviously, something like that doesn't simply vanish, so a few people managed to pick together some pieces. Stuff about devouring the energy of nature, surpassing the heaven and earth, and becoming immortal. Needless to say, they were completely misguided and reached a rather outrageous end result: plant the seed of the world tree, which would suck up the planet's entire energy, devouring the energy of nature. Then, eat the tree's fruit, surpassing, overcoming a whole planet, and finally, becoming immortal, or as the Otsutsuki clan interpreted it, becoming a god. Obviously, that was not the kind of story Kaguya told Yuna, as she retold story after story about how glorious the Otsutsuki was and all of their heroic deeds, but Yuna had no trouble seeing through that kind of propaganda. Kaguya might be an invincible force of nature to the people of the shinobi world, but Yuna could clearly see how brainwashed she was. Hell, Ishiki wanted to sacrifice her to the Ten Tails, and she still could gush about the Otsutsuki clan, so there was that. Anyway, Yuna offhandedly noticed that all of those heroic figures Kaguya was talking about were male, so Yuna decided to throw a question into the mix. Out of curiosity, are men or women more treasured in the Otsutsuki clan? Kaguya seemed to be weirded out by that question, but nonetheless answered Yuna. Isn't that obvious? It's men. Yuna nodded in understanding while a wry smile appeared on her face. Well, that explains why the great ancestor switched genders and I became his devoted wife. Who would look up to a heroic figure that was part of a massive harem and loved nothing more than getting their hole stuffed? Do you have to point that out every time you mention her? Yes. Sigh, why do I even ask? Anyway, interested in meeting your grandmother, Kurama? Node. Ha ha ha, how cold tilde. A while later, Kaguya finished her tale, causing Yuna to nod in satisfaction. She is just a naive little cog in the machine called Utsutsuki, so I won't blame her for the mess with the world tree. The spanking is postponed. A pity. I'd like to see that. Well, I might give her a little one later on tilde. I'm looking forward to it. Anyway, Kaguya, now that you have told me your story, it's time for you to hear mine. Kaguya's eyes shone with interest when she heard Yuna's words. All the current Utsutsuki clan had about the time of the great ancestor were myths, so she was really looking forward to what she was about to hear. Well, there was still some doubt about Yuna really being the great ancestor's soulmate, but she would listen patiently for now. Chapter 529, the final story of the past one. Inside a lavishly decorated hall sat a single woman on a highly ornamented chair that stood on an elevated position. She had ice blue hair and pure white eyes. Naturally, this woman was Yuna. Despite still looking very young, an aura of death surrounded her, and in front of her, around 1,000 people were kowtowing, making her frown. In front of her were either people of her bloodline or her direct disciples, so she felt like these kinds of formalities were unnecessary. Frankly, she missed the times when her children would look at her with shining eyes and call her Grandma Ice. Raise your heads. As soon as she issued that order, everyone obeyed. Yuna allowed her gaze to wander over everyone present and immediately noticed that almost everyone wore tense expressions. She smiled relaxedly and resumed talking. As most of you are undoubtedly aware of why I gathered you here, I might as well just directly go to the point. My remaining lifespan is around 1 week. A turmoil broke out as soon as those words left Yuna's mouth. Naturally, they were aware that even gods could not evade the concept of death, but most of them couldn't believe that it would be Yuna's time anytime soon. Yuna lightly tapped her armrest with her finger, instantly silencing the room. Shio, my beloved disciple, did you do as I ordered? A well-dressed middle-aged man stood up and put his fist into his palm, saluting Yuna. The smell of high-quality cheese covered the room as soon as the man stood up, making Yuna smile a little. This disciple did as master ordered. I have leaked the info about your incoming death to most hostile factions. Yet again, a turmoil started while quite a lot of people glared at Shio with killing intent, making him smile leisurely while the cheese smell intensified. Master, why did you make senior brother do something like that? Yuna's smile widened as she leaned back in her chair. Well, let me ask you a question instead. How do you expect someone like me to die? Do you think someone like me would be satisfied with lying down in bed as my lifespan slowly ended? Instantly, everyone in the room shook their head in denial. Everyone knew that Yuna liked flashy things. And dying like that was everything but flashy. That's right, someone like me should go with a burn. Yuna was split into a massive grin as insanity started radiating from her eyes. Yes, a boon to trump all boons. Something never seen before. That is how I will go, tilde. Get out of there, you old fossil. It's time to refine your soul. As these words rang through Yuna's sect, powerful pressure covered the room, making the people inside it frown. Who would dare to attack their sect in such a brazen manner? That was clearly suicide. Unlike the other people in the room, Yuna laughed in delight when she realized who had bit the bait she laid out. To think the world's strongest demon cultivator would bite. How lucky, tilde. Farewell, everyone, and open your eyes to witness my final move. So, under the sad cries of everyone in the room, Yuna teleported to the top of the building and then started slowly rising into the air. While raising, she gave another building a brief glance. This was where she spent the last few years saying her farewells to her harem. Obviously, none of them were currently capable of movements, but luckily monitoring runes existed so that they could watch her as well. Moments later, she appeared in front of a middle-aged man with purple skin, red hair, and a pair of black horns on his head. If it isn't the demon brat. It's been a while. Yeah, it's been a while, old hag. To think I would get a chance to harvest your soul. I can't help but get a little excited, Tilda. Oh? You sound quite confident. Can you really do it? I'm aware that I'm usually not your match, but now that you are dying, you are ripe for the harvest. Yuna chuckled in amusement as her senses washed over her surroundings. You and quite a few others, it seems. But it looks like you are the only one willing to commit for now. Just out of curiosity, why did you decide to make your move first? The demon in front of her sneered as hatred started oozing out of his body. Isn't that obvious? It's to get a chance at paying back the humiliation you made me go through. Yuna tilted her head in confusion as she pondered what the person in front of her was talking about. After thinking about it for a short moment, she hit her palm with her fist. Oh. You were talking about the spanking I gave you in the middle of your sect, right? Why, you bastard, don't say that out loud. Ma, it's not like it's a secret. Considering how loudly you were weeping, your whole sect heard it. It's not like your position was high enough to suppress that kind of information at that point in time. Stop talking about this. Well, I really don't see the problem here. I mean, it was like an hour of spanking and about a year of quarantine. Aren't you demonic sects dishing out much harsher punishments on a regular basis? The demon gritted his teeth so hard they almost shattered as his glare intensified even further. You damn bitch even put runes on me so I couldn't move while stopping the pain from diminishing. Yuna could only shrug her shoulders at that. I don't see how that is my fault. If you didn't want your butt spanked, you shouldn't have acted like a brat. The demons had almost burst from anger when Yuna happily claimed that her spanking him wasn't her fault. He has seen a lot of shameless people in his life, but this woman was on another level. I will definitely kill you, you wretched old hag.